Hi, and welcome again to another video discussion on the wonderful world of antique pump organs. Hi, I'm Rod Fudge from PumpOrganRestorations.com, and this will be another in a series of videos that I'm doing on all things pump organ. Now, the second most often question asked to me is, how old is my pump organ? Fair question. Now, in order to determine that, we need two pieces of information. One is the serial number, and the next is the name of the manufacturer. Let's take the serial number first. Now, the serial number is always found in the back of the organ or inside the back of the organ. Okay. Now, I'm going to use this fellow here as my demonstrator. Now, in the back of about 50% of pump organs, this style, parlor organ, you're going to have a back panel, but some won't have that. 50% or so won't have that panel, and there's a primary reason for that. People wanted to get more sound out of their pump organ, so the easiest way to do that is take that whole panel off and just forget about it, and that's what a lot of them did. So as a consequence, you won't have a panel there, but a panel was originally there when it came from the factory. So if your panel is gone, in any event, there should be a cross board directly above that opening. Now, on the left-hand side of that cross board, you should find, if it's there, the serial number will be stenciled on, or it will be stamped into the wood. Now, another location it could be is on the inside of the organ, on either side, inside, a paper label, and the company may put the serial number there. Now, if you happen to have an Estey organ, E-S-T-E-Y, who were the biggest, Estey did a nice thing. Every pump organ they built, they put a paper label on the back of the inside on that flat area there, inside. And it would have red ink stamped in the middle, and that was the serial number, always in red ink with an Estey organ. Now, the second item is the name of the manufacturer, and that gets a little tricky. In most cases, the name of the company, the name of the manufacturer is going to be just left of the row of stops, and the location of where the company is in the country, here in the States, is on the right-hand side. However, that's in the majority of cases. But there are some manufacturers who would put their name right across the bottom underneath the stops, and on some they would put it directly right across the top of the stops. Now that's in most cases. However, there were businesses that would purchase pump organs from pump organ manufacturers, like Estey and Chicago Cottage and Cornish and some of the major ones. Like a classic one was Music Emporiums. Now, this was a forerunner of the music store that we have today. And these Music Emporiums typically sold sheet music right across to pianos, including pump organs, all instruments, everything musical. But many of these emporiums wanted to have their own line of pump organs. So when they'd contact, say, Estey or Cornish or Story & Clark, they would say, okay, we want to buy 20 organs, okay? But we don't want you to put your name on it, we want you to put our name on it. And that's where it gets a little tricky, because if you happen to have a pump organ with a name that is not recognizable, then there's a good chance that you have what is known as a stencil organ in the industry. The industry was very common to put somebody else's name, another organization, another company, on the organs instead of their own. It was referred to as a stencil organ. Now, if you email me the information from the serial number that you got off the back, as well as the name of the company and where they were located, there's an excellent chance that I can give you basically all the information on that organization that survived the passing of time, if that was a real company, a real pump organ company. And I will send you some information if it's not a pump organ company, basically what I'm saying right now. So, two things: the serial number, which we know is typically found on the back, the inside, sometimes across the outside, that crossbar, and you are looking for a 5 or 6 digit number. Now, you will see 2, 3, and 4 digit numbers. In most cases, those are construction numbers that were used by the factories in putting those pump organs together, that particular style of pump organ. So you're looking for a 5 or 6 digit number. Okay. All right, now let's touch on for a second I've covered emporiums. The popularity of pump organs in the 1870s, 80s, and 90s was immense. That's why there were 653 pump organ manufacturers just in this country. Now, the reason for that is pianos are way too expensive. The Industrial Revolution, that would be later in the century, 1890s, would pull those prices down for pianos dramatically. And the typical family could buy one of those. But for the most part, in the 70s and 80s and into the 90s, they were just too expensive. Pipe organs were absolutely out of question. Way too expensive. So here now enters the pump organ. Has a real short window in the history of this country and others as well. It's like Halley's Comet. Went across the sky, burned bright, and it was gone. A good 30 years, that was the end of the pump organ. By the turn of the century, pump organ was in a free fall, the market, and people were simply not, they were an antique in the eyes of a lot of people. You had player pianos, you had crank Victrolas, you had all kinds of things that were coming on. So pump organs, by World War I, that's 1917 here in the States, 1914 in Europe and the UK, Australia. And so by the Second World War, there are only maybe a dozen left. And it's interesting, I'm not going to cover this in this video, but there is a whole discussion I'll be getting into in these small, what's known as a parlor organ or chaplain's organ. They're about so big, so like so, and they fold up, very popular. They were very popular, especially with traveling ministers, tent meetings, things like that, as well as the military used them. But I'll get into that at another video. Did my pump organ have a hutch or not? This upper portion is a hutch or canopy, and they would typically land right here on the organ. This is where they would be screwed in. At least one screw on each side, sometimes 4 or 5 in the back to hold it on. Many pump organs no longer have the top section, the hutch, gone. Very common for a hutch to go this way, and the piano, the pump organ, the primary portion of the organ goes another direction. They never hook up again. Now, if you want to determine if originally your organ had a hutch top section, look for a couple of screw holes, one here and one here. That will be the telltale sign that your pump organ indeed had, for a matter of fact, a hutch at one time. And in some cases, pardon me, I'll have some customers who will call and say, well, you know, I don't have a hutch, but you think you can hunt me down one that goes with this model? And in many cases, I can do that. I can track that. I can track that down. So that's the bit of information on the hutches or the canopies. If you have one, or if you ever had one, you'll know now to look for some screw holes. That's what you're looking for. Now, pump organs, the construction. These things were built out of oak or walnut. They were premium hardwoods, so they would resonate the sound. But as far as the quality of the hardwood that was available back in that day versus today is totally, completely different. The coloring, the grain in the old wood from that period, absolutely stunning. And when it's finished off, restored, the color just jumps right out. It's just absolutely, the wood today, the hardwoods, the oak, the walnut, those things are on steroids. They have these tree farms and they're plastered with steroids. They're loaded up with pesticides, and I don't even see how they grow at all. But the grain isn't there, the coloring isn't there. It's a totally different creature, altogether different. Pardon me. Well, that's, I think, all I'm going to cover in this video. Talked a little bit about the history of the organ. Again, what you can do to find out how old your pump organ is. Let me for a second before I jump out of here. Now, I mentioned about these emporiums. Now, these are very popular. Major cities would have these large retail one-level businesses. And you'd walk in and there'd be pianos all around and there'd be pump organs all around. Some places would have more pump organs than pianos. In order for you to work in one of these music emporiums, you had to be able to do three things. Read music, okay? Read sheet music, play both a piano and an organ, and sing. All three. If you didn't, well, you weren't able to do those three, no need to apply. Pardon me. So what would happen, someone would walk in the store and they are looking for a piece of sheet music, they find it, and then they walk up to the sales clerk, whatever they were called, say, can you play this for me? And they'll simply sit down and away it goes, and then they're singing. And the interesting thing, so many of these people would purchase the sheet music. Some people had just tons of sheet music at home. They could not play the piano or pump organ, couldn't read, and couldn't sing. And they purchased them on the hope that someone would come by to visit their home who could play and possibly sing, and that's why they would have them on hand. So some people, I guess, waited a long time before they could hear again what it sounded like. So, okay, we'll bring the curtain down on this. Again, thanks for watching. Again, another series in all things pump organ, dealing with many of the different topics, and I'll be on more topics with follow-on videos. So appreciate your time. Thanks for watching, and goodbye now.